The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, otherwise known as the Soviet Union, was one of the greatest nations to ever grace this earth. During its period of existence, it was the largest country of the world, and one of the most diverse, with over 100 nationalities living in it. The Soviet Union was created after the Russian Revolution of 1917, after revolutionaries overthrew Russia's Tsar Nicholas II, ending centuries of Romanov rule. A socialist state was established in the territory that was once the Russian Empire. A 1922 treaty between Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Transcaucasia formed the Soviet Union. The newly established communist country was led by Vladimir Lenin, who took control of the government. At its highest peak, the USSR would grow to contain up to 15 socialist republic states. After Lenin's death in 1924, Joseph Stalin rose to power. The dictator ruled by terror, with a series of brutal policies which left millions of his own people dead. During his reign, Stalin transformed the Soviet Union from an agrarian society to an industrial and military superpower. During World War II, the Soviet Union had a large role in taking down Nazi Germany.
But after the surrender of the Nazis at the end of the war, the United States was worried about Joseph Stalin's blood-hungry power. This started the Cold War, which lasted from 1947 through 1991. The Cold War was a prolonged period of tension and competition between the two. Most famously known was the nuclear arms race for supremacy.
And with war being said inevitable, citizens from both countries were worried about a nuclear war.
The Soviets initiated space exploration programs in the 1930s as part of Stalin's agenda for building an advanced economy. Many early projects were kept secret, but by the 1950s, space would become another arena for competition. On October 4th, 1957, the USSR publicly launched Sputnik 1, the first ever artificial satellite. The success of Sputnik made Americans worry that U.S. was falling behind its rival in technology.
The ensuing space race heated up further in 1961 when Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. U.S. President John F. Kennedy responded to Gagarin's feat by making the claim that the U.S. would put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. The U.S. succeeded on July 16, 1969. Years later, in 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev came into power, and he had a stagnant economy and a crumbling political system. During the 1960s and 1970s, the Communist Party elites rapidly gained wealth and power while millions of average Soviets faced starvation. The divide between the extreme wealth and poverty of the Soviet citizens created a backlash from younger people who refused to adopt the Communist Party ideology as their parents. Gorbachev's reforms began to do more to collapse the Soviet Union. Peaceful revolutions started up across Eastern Europe states led to the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Mikhail Gorbachev's dreams of holding the Soviet Union together may have received a death blow today. The Union's 3 Slavic republics announced they are forming a separate Commonwealth of Independent States: Russia, the Ukraine, and Belarus.
December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned from power. And by December 31, 1991, the Great Soviet Union ceased to exist.